Before we dive into today's episode, I want to say a big thank you to our sponsor, PensionBee. They're a leading online pension provider, making it easier for people, especially single parents like us, to feel confident about saving for retirement. Along with their easy to use app, their podcast can also help you build confidence with your personal finances. The Pension Confident podcast is a monthly show covering pensions, ISAs, mortgages, and more. Listen to the Pension Confident podcast wherever you get your podcasts. You can find it on YouTube and in the PensionBee app too. Just remember, as with all investments, your capital is at risk. Thanks again to PensionBee for supporting this episode. Hi, I'm Zoë Desmond, the founder of Frollo, the award-winning app for single parents that features both community and dating modes. And I'm also co-author, along with my wonderful friend Rebecca Cox, that I made through Frollo, of the book How to Be a Happy Single Parent. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Frollo podcast. Today I'm joined by Jennifer Muscatel, founder of Single Mom Society and the voice behind some of the most unapologetically real, empowering and funny content out there for single moms and anyone ready to stop shrinking and start reclaiming their lives. Jennifer is now evolving her platform beyond single parenting and into something even more expansive, mindset work, healing, and what she calls claiming your comeback. She's a certified NLP practitioner, podcast host, and comeback coach. And today we're getting into all of it: the motherhood journey, the burnout, the humor, the rebuild, and what it means to finally stop playing nice. Jennifer, it's such a pleasure to be able to chat to you today.
And I need a copy of that intro. That was amazing. Thank you so much. And you got my last name right. So I'm really impressed.
Oh, phew. Well, no, I mean, there's a lot to cover and I'm looking forward to getting into all of it. So maybe just to give me and our listeners a window into you. Who are you and what's your story? A very general question, and you can answer it however you like.
Yeah. So I grew up in a very loving household, but a very high achieving household, high standards. And I didn't know my worth because it was like, oh, you need to be better and you need to be thinner and you need to be prettier and you need to be smarter. And so I didn't have any concept of my worth. And so I chose the first person who seemed interested in me to marry. And I'm a firm believer that we end up with the correct kids. And so I did not end up with the correct husband, but my son is a dream. And then even by the time I chose my second husband, I still didn't understand my worth. And I actually chose worse that time. So after my second marriage, so I became a single mom with my son when he was 1. And I was about 28, and then became a single mom again when he was 14. My daughter was 2. I really haven't had a boyfriend since. I've just been focusing on my worth and learning how worthy I am. And then once you do that, then everything falls into place because you're making better choices for yourself.
Amen. Well, the amount of people who will be listening to this, relating to what you're saying, I think obviously as a single parent community, there will be a lot of us who relate to maybe being in relationships where we played small, didn't know our worth, tried to get validation in all the wrong places, and are on a healing journey from that. So where does one start to do that? And are there any telltale signs that you're playing small, or that if someone doesn't, if even if someone doesn't realize it, that they don't know their worth? Are there any telltale signs?
That's a good question, if there are telltale signs. But the thing that I try to teach people is I really believe we all have the answers already inside of us, but we're afraid to look at them. It hurts too much, or we think it's easier to go this direction, even though our heart is really telling us no. And so I think that's really the key, is to quiet yourself down enough that you can say, where am I making this choice from? Is this an authentic choice? Is this true to myself? I'll give you even an example this week. I went on 2 dates last week and I really liked them both, which is so unusual. And so
Amazing.
amazing. Yeah. So I had the second date and it was just off. It just was totally off for a million reasons. And when I had gone the first week, I was like, do I really like these guys, or am I just liking them because they like me? Because that was my old pattern. But I could see by date 2, nope, I can answer these questions for myself. That is not right for me. He's not right for me. He's a wonderful person. He's just not my person. So we have date 2 with the other guy tonight. So we'll see how it goes.
Oh, amazing. I will be keen to hear an update for date 2. Maybe we'll have to do a follow-up. I really agree with you that we have the answers within ourselves. And it's like every time I ignore my intuition, it backfires massively. And it's amazing that, and I think this is really common, and I've experienced it as well. And in the past, what I've thought are butterflies are actually red flag alerts, I think, kind of shooting off. So it's really interesting, these feelings of almost anxiety, or that can be taken as excitement, or this feels exciting, but actually there's a signal that it's like no, 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 no. So yeah, I think it's a really good one to listen to intuition. So just on the dating side, yeah, what would your green flags and red flags of dating be?
So this man on my date the other night, he had a cocktail, which is fine. I just happen not to drink. I don't like it. I don't mind if other people drink, but hold your liquor. And it was one cocktail and he was loopy. And what I realized was I felt like I was in charge all of a sudden. I felt like the masculine energy in the room, where I had to take care of him and soothe him because he was really revealing too much. So that's one of the things, is I want somebody who's masculine. I know it doesn't sound right, but I do want to be taken care of. I take care of everything, and I have for my whole life. I've taken care of everything. So just to be able to lean on someone is lovely. And so I want somebody who's confident, who's a leader. I mean, it's small little things like, did you make a reservation? It's such a small thing, but it's this forethought.
Oh, I hear you, sister.
Yeah. It's Saturday night. It's a busy city.
Yeah, and it makes a big difference. It does make a big
Yeah.
difference. Just,
Yeah.
yeah. Has he made the reservation?
Tonight actually both of them did. Yeah.
Good.
I'm getting better at choosing. I'm choosing higher caliber people. But I think that's a big thing too, is just in yourself, knowing that you are worth that high caliber person. Because sometimes I'll look and I'll be like, would they be into me? Who knows what somebody's into, like.
It's so true. And the more that, I guess you're in your upgrading kind of mode and being strict with yourself, or us with ourselves, and saying, no, this isn't right, or this would be staying small, or this I've learned from previous relationships, this doesn't work for me. And I think the more that you can lean into being really true to yourself and strict with what you're looking for and what your boundaries are, I do believe that the universe then hears that, because the more we put out, it's what we put out, isn't it?
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think having that confidence in yourself that you will be okay, whether or not, as far as dating goes, whether or not you're in a relationship doesn't matter, as long as you're in the relationship with yourself. Like, I was thinking, what would it be like to marry, like if you were going to marry yourself, like what would you want from yourself? You would want somebody who takes care of you, who is okay that you sometimes don't feel good because you have an autoimmune illness or whatever it is. So what are those things that I would really, really want? Because we always look at what do we want in them, but what would I really want? So the guy I'm going out with tonight, I feel comfortable telling him that I get infusions once a month for rheumatoid arthritis. It's okay to not be perfect with this guy, but there's other people that I find myself pretending, oh, I love hiking
Yeah,
or whatever it
totally.
is. Yeah. And that just puts me in trouble.
Totally. And I actually saw a clip, the dating coach, Matthew Hussey. Do you know him?
No.
He's a dating coach. He's really good, actually. He's great. So I saw a clip of his today where he is saying exactly that like, stop trying to show up as perfect for the people that you're dating, because if you can show up as your messy, authentic self, then you'll know sooner if they are the right person for you anyway, instead of acting. And, and that's what life is. That's what the human experience is. That's what love is. It's like how people interact and show up for each other with all of those quirks and messiness anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're not being authentic and real, then maybe that person you're talking to feels like they can't be.
Yeah,
But
very
once
true.
you let down your guard, then they're like, oh, this is a safe person to be around. And then you really can get deep with somebody.
That is so true. How about you in relationships now versus maybe how you showed up in your previous relationships when you were playing small? Do you feel like a different person in terms
Oh,
of how
yeah.
you show up?
Yeah, because the attachment theories, so
Yeah,
there's like avoidant, and I was completely anxiously attached. So I was like, if I don't call him, then maybe he's going to forget about me, or maybe he's waiting for me to call him because, but I can let go of all of that and go, it will turn out the way it turns out. I have a really full life. If I forget to text, now I might forget to text somebody back, even though I really like them. But before it would be like, okay, I'm texting him back immediately. And what am I going to say? And is he going to like what I say? And all of that stuff. So once you really get secure, I say it's like going to buy a car. When you have a car that you really, really like, and so there's no rush. You're just like, I kind of want to, I just want to see what they've got out there. And you can go to different dealerships and test drive. But if you get in a car accident and there's this urgency to buy a car, then you're going to just like go and you're going to get the first one, and you may end up not liking it as much as you would have if you had slowed it all down. So that's kind of my theory, is just slow it all down. There's no rush. If he is meant to be or she is meant to be, whatever it is, then it will be.
totally.
Actually, the crazy thing is, the guy that I'm going out with tonight, he looked in his calendar and we had a date 2 years ago. And
What?
I didn't remember, but it's all timing, right? Because he was fresh out of divorce, and
Did you go on that date?
yeah.
Oh, wow.
And usually I remember everything, and I kind of remember parts of it. And I remember wanting him to call me, and then he didn't. So I was like, okay, whatever. But he was so fresh out of a divorce, and I didn't have as much self-worth then that I have now. So it's just all timing.
It's so true. And if it's, as my mom always says, what's for you won't pass you by. So, and I was going to say as well, your point about the car analogy and, what you said earlier about kind of building your own self love up. I think that's so key, because then we're coming from a place of not trying to kind of fill a void, but something as a cherry on top instead, which is a big difference in an approach to dating. So I think it's so cool, and I think it's amazing. I get to speak to obviously a lot of different single parents on the Frodo podcast, and that is something that rings true for so many people, is that journey from date, I suppose the healing journey, and then getting to a place of really self-love and working on that, and dating from a completely different perspective as well. And especially realizing, well, we're doing it on our own anyway, I'm single parenting anyway. And so I've got it all covered. And, there's no way anyone is getting into this scenario unless they are incredible.
Yes. Yeah. They have to care about my children, respectfully, and they need to care about their own children. That's like a big thing for me is, do they live in the same state or do they pay their child support? I mean, just these, and then I get to like the real nitty gritty, like, does he have a bedroom for them in his house? Does he keep a raincoat for them at their house for rainy days?
Yeah.
Does he take them on an airplane?
Yeah. Yeah.
What would the X say? I want to know what the X would say.
That is really, I love this. That is really good because Frollo, as well as being an app that has community, there's a dating mode. So I think a lot of single parents who are dating or in the process of kind of wanting to date other single parents, I do think that they are important things to think about, and very revealing how somebody speaks about their ex, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I love it when someone says, "Oh, I learned so much. I've grown so much since then. I know the mistakes I made." Yeah.
I know. And look, we all have, I'm sure that not everyone has amazing, wonderful things to say about their exes. And I'm sure there's been lots of painful situations, but I think if someone's saying their ex is a psycho or using, really derogatory terms, especially as a female, I mean, I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why it would be thought that that's a conversation, a road that anyone would want to go down on a date.
And yet, whatever it was, when did I meet him? Almost 20 years ago. And my ex told me, everything was his ex's fault. Everything was his ex's fault. He didn't drink. It was his ex who was bringing alcohol into the home and making him drink.
Okay, forcing, gun to his head.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I bought it. I mean, I bought it. I believed it. I was like, oh my goodness, that's so sad. I'm so sorry that happened to you. So
it's funny, isn't it?
To believe.
Yeah, but then I think it's also reflective of, well, I speak for myself. I think for me, where I am on the journey, whereas there would have been maybe a point in my life where I would have felt sorry or kind of leaned into that victim story. And now I'm just kind of like, nope, no accountability, no growth mindset. As you said, what are their learnings? Or, I had a painful experience, but I've learned a lot about what I do want in a relationship or what I don't want. And I got an amazing kid out of it. It's kind of,
yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's so interesting. And so single mom, so your business, Single Moms Society, how did that all come about?
So it's kind of funny. So it's been a little over a year, and I have, this background, like a deep, serious background. I really care about people and I want other people to feel positive and happy and confident. So I was working that way, like with Instagram, like these, inspirational types of things, but I was literally losing followers. Like nobody had any interest in what I was saying. And then one day I just kind of twisted it and made this sarcastic video of like the opposite, like, don't make your ex pay child support. Like, that's so cruel. That's so mean. He's got things to spend his money on. And it just took off. And so I realized that I can use my humor to point the finger at some really serious issues that everybody can relate to. So that's how that came about. So most everything I do is going to have a very deep, meaningful undertone where you're like, oh, okay. So that's funny, but it's totally true. But now I'm moving into this stop playing nice, like you said, of like not being afraid to take up space and using your voice and speaking up and saying what you really mean and listening to those instincts so that we can take that experience of whatever it was, whether we're single moms or we're women without kids or we're men, like anybody who gave themselves up for too long and prioritized everybody else except for themselves. That's who I want to talk to now, so that we can take this make it a second chance at life. Like we got a gift,
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
really lucky that we get to a do-over. So
Yes. So what are some examples of how you stopped playing nice in your own life? The following is a paid advertisement from BetterHelp. I want to talk about mental health for a minute. Being a single parent comes with its highs and lows, and as single parents, it's so important to make sure we look after ourselves in the process. That's why I'm excited to introduce you to BetterHelp, the online therapy service that's here to support you every step of the way. With BetterHelp, you can connect with registered therapists from the comfort of your own home. Whether you're feeling overwhelmed, stressed, or just need someone to talk to, they're here to help. Plus, as a Frollo member, you get an exclusive 25% off your first month. Just visit betterhelp.com/Frollo. That's betterhelp.com/Frollo.
yeah, that's a good question. I think one of the things that led me to this was I had 3 experiences where I compromised myself and lost a lot of money. And it was to other women that I thought I trusted, like other women in this realm that I thought we were all, on the same journey and supportive of each other. And what I realized was that, like with the first one, she said, "These are the reasons that you owe me $3,000." And I go into this retreat in myself. Like I retreat and I go, "Fine, here's your fucking $3,000. If you want it, fine, go ahead, take it." As opposed to speaking up and saying, "No, I'm not understanding why you think I owe you money. And can you explain that? And maybe can we find a compromise?" But I just it was like a protective thing for myself to do what they were asking, which is so silly. It just sounds so strange that I was like, anyway. Those kinds of experiences. What did I do? There was something I did this week that was not playing nice anymore. Oh, I posted something that upset people, and I really wanted to take it down.
What was it?
We may disagree, and some of your followers might disagree with me, but it was about Huda Katan, who went on TikTok and said that Israel was responsible for World War I, II, 9/11, and 10/6. And so I just took one of her lipsticks and wrote a message that said, no amount of makeup can make anyone pretty, something like that, a hateful person pretty. So it was a statement about hate, it wasn't about the conflict and which side I take, but I lost 4,000 followers.
Wow.
Yeah. And people were saying that I support genocide, that I support starving babies, that I don't care about these things, and what kind of person, and they know now they know why I'm divorced, like stuff, like it got really personal.
Oh,
and
wow.
And I really wanted to take it down because I don't like conflict. And I was like, no, I mean, Jen, you made a statement about hate, that no amount of makeup, like all I said was no amount of makeup can make a hateful person look pretty. How is that wrong? That's not wrong. I'm going to stand in that truth. And if I lose 100,000 followers, then so be it. It's a big statement.
Yeah.
And then what was great, though, is because I stood in that truth, then other people appreciated it. And so even though I lost this huge amount of followers, I'm still ahead.
Yeah.
So because enough people followed me.
My example of not playing nice recently, which I felt really uncomfortable with. Is a really good friend of mine, a really old friend of mine. Like, we've been friends for decades, and but she always cancels plans last minute, and so I feel like I can't rely on her, and then I sometimes feel like the excuses are so elaborate that I've kind of stopped believing in the excuses. But then when I've said it to her in the past, we've sort of fallen out and it's caused a rift. So I've sort of chosen just to ignore it and let things go over my head. But inside, I'm building up resentment. And so, anyway, it happened again recently. And so I told her exactly how it's been making me feel, and that it's been impacting my kind of trust levels, because I find myself questioning whether she's telling me the truth. And I feel guilty for even questioning that, because she's such a close friend. And I know that she has such high integrity. And so I find it confusing. And I kind of pressed send on this message that I carefully put together. And I felt sick with anxiety and worry about what the reaction was going to be. And I kind of expected either, yeah, I kind of expected the worst. But at the same time, I felt adamant that I had to do this and just be authentic. And anyway, it worked out well. She actually came back and she said, I really, really appreciate that you care enough about our friendship to be completely honest with me about how this has been making you feel, which felt so good that she could see that it was because it's worth it to me to.
Yeah.
But yeah,
You didn't just walk away. You went in and tried to make it better. You took a risk. It could have gone either way, but at least you tried.
exactly. And now we've had a couple of kind of conversations where we've kind of unpacked it a bit. And and I think it can bring a friendship kind of closer together. And so, yeah, so with these not playing nice things, I find myself kind of leaning into that in my own life in various different ways. And you know what? It's really liberating, I have to say. Really liberating.
Once you do it, once at first, like you said, it makes you sick. But once you start going, oh, I survived that. I was able to say something and I survived, then it does get easier. Yeah, it's not how we were raised, it's just a lot of us who ended up single moms, or who ended up giving up so much of our lives for others. That's how we got here, because we just stayed quiet and let things slide.
So true. And exactly as you said, this is such an opportunity to kind of reassess, do a bit of an audit. Why did this happen? What's going on? How can I sort of live my life in a way that's sort of supporting myself, true to who I am? And how is it that you're, driving this stop playing nice sort of movement?
Yeah, so we're in the process. It's going to probably be launched not until January. So there's just a lot of pieces. There's going to be, this transition, and it's so similar in so many ways, but then it's so different, and we're introducing this new audience. So yeah, it's in transition, and then deciding like all the components that I want in it. Do I want somatic healing in it? Do I want NLP? So right now, I'm taking clients and working on the one-on-one or the groups until we really launch in September. So just kind of teaching it for right now. I mean, I had an experience, my best friend, that actually two best friends. One of them was supporting this local politician who was so hateful. And so I had, we had a couple conversations. I'm like, how are you not seeing this? And she's like, so we tried to talk it out a couple times, and we couldn't. And she was like, I would go to my daughter and I would go there in pajamas and just spend the whole day there in pajamas. But I couldn't. And then, yeah, anyway, so that was really tough. And I really miss her. But then when I think about trying again, then I'm like, no, because that part hasn't changed. And then one of my great friends also, we've known each other our whole lives. And it was just stacking up, stacking up, stacking up, all of these things. And so I approached him and said, this is what I'm feeling. And he said, we'll talk about it. I was on vacation. He said, we'll talk about it when you get home. And it's been 2 years and he hasn't called. So, and my mom keeps saying, you need to call him. I'm like, no, I already told him where I was coming from. He can come to me. So, and it's hard. Like all of their kids, between those two friends, there's 5 kids that were like my nieces and nephews. And
That's
I
so
lose
tough.
access to that. So
That is so tough. It's so tough. And I do think, I suppose, getting older or get wiser or whatever it is, and leaning into that kind of authenticity and also the boundaries and also being clear on your own value system. I think that unfortunately happens. And sometimes people come closer and sometimes people drop away, even if it's a temporary thing, but it's painful.
and
Yeah.
then you gain new people. That's the cool part, is that when you start identifying like, this is who I am and this is what I'll tolerate, then those people show up. So like when that friendship ended with the friend over a politician, which sounds so stupid, but I ended up creating this group called the Inclusion Project. And, we would have rallies for inclusion and making the neighborhood feel safer and where everybody belongs. And then I expected, this group of people to come and support me, and they didn't. But then now I have this whole new group of people that I'm friends with that did support the same initiative. So I think that's part of, I call it the perks of bravery, because there's so many things that we are so afraid to do, and you need to do it.
Yeah, I know. I love that, the perks of bravery. They
Yeah.
they they are always there, like waiting. And well, speaking of the perks of bravery, kind of final question would be for anyone listening to this episode now and wondering, well, what wisdom can you give them to soak up about leaning into, yeah, being their most authentic self and stopping playing nice, stopping playing small, and healing?
It's definitely scary. And, people will send me messages like, it's not so easy. And I'm not saying it's easy. It takes a lot of work. But I think that we talked about the biggest thing is listening to yourself. So sometimes it's not even it's sort of meditation, but I'll tell my kids, just go lay down. You know where your car keys are. Your brain knows where they are. So just go lay down and just be quiet for a minute and just ask yourself, where are the car keys? And we can do that with anything. Like that didn't feel good. When that person said that didn't feel good. Okay, just let me take a minute and feel in my body, because that's a lot of the NLP work, is like feeling the feeling. Where do you feel it? What does it feel like? What does it remind you of? And there's a lot of exercises that I have that can help people tap into that, and then tools that they can use to balance themselves. But I think that's the biggest thing, is just really listening to yourself, and your answers are there. And then being brave enough to follow through. That's the next step.
And not confusing butterflies with red flags or
Yes.
red flags with
Yes.
butterflies.
Yeah, and even writing those down, right? Like because now I'll tell the stories, on my channel, I'm telling the stories now. Like they're so obvious. It's so obvious. How did I not see it? So maybe if we write those things down. The other thing I think too is the things we're most afraid to tell our friends about somebody. Like, oh, okay, so I met this guy, but he was drinking too much. I'm not going to tell anyone that because that's embarrassing, and I know what they're going to say. Those are the things that you need to be paying attention to.
Very true. Exactly. If we're editing certain things out, it's probably a sign that, yeah,
Yeah.
we need to look at for sure. Well, Jennifer, where can people find you?
Well, right now they can find me at Single Mom Society _ on Instagram and TikTok. And I'm very responsive to messages. And there's a link in my bio if somebody wanted to schedule a one-on-one with me or a group session, if they have some friends and they want to work on a certain topic. Yeah. And then just keep staying tuned because everything's kind of transitioning. We have stopplayingnice.com and I'm working on the trademark. So hopefully you'll see, the book and the podcast. Yeah, I do have a podcast, Single Mom Society, but everything's kind of transitioning now. So it's exciting. I'd love to hear from anybody.
Amazing. Well, so much going on. And yes, we are cheering you on and can't wait to see it all unfold even more. And thank you. I've loved our conversation. It's really, really enjoyed it. And I will be rooting for you date number 2 tonight. I hope that he gives you all the green flags and good feelings.
I appreciate that. I'll keep you posted. And thank you for getting in touch and inviting me on.
Thanks, Jennifer. And thank you, everyone, for listening to another episode of the Frollo podcast. See you next time. And that's a wrap for this week. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. If you did, then I have one small favor to ask. Please can you take a minute to subscribe to the Frollo podcast and give us a rating and review. This really helps other single parents who might benefit from it find us. The Frollo app, which is fully user verified for user safety, is available on the Google Play Store and the App Store, and you can find out more info and download links at www.frollo.com or follow us on Instagram at Frollo app. And you can purchase your copy of our book, How to Be a Happy Single Parent, at all the major book retailers. Until next time, have a great week.